Your 3 minutes will be timed when it does start out.
Okay, I'm Richard Taylor, I'm a Cambridge resident, and I've been looking at the performance of our Police and Crime Commissioner and the Police and Crime panel. And I'm encouraged by the proposal in your papers today that you might bring the Police and Crime Commissioner before you every couple of months. What I wanted to draw your attention to is the way the Police and Crime panel has been selecting the Commissioner's decisions for them to consider for scrutiny. They've been letting the Commissioner decide which decisions he puts to them, which I think is it's not a very good way of working. And I'd like you to consider bringing in Councillor Maguire as the chair of the panel to ask him about that approach, and also to consider perhaps yourselves looking into some of the decisions which the Commissioner hasn't decided to highlight for scrutiny and filling in the gap there. So the Commissioner publishes on his website some decisions, those that he considers are of public interest and are of importance, but I think there are many decisions which are omitted from that. One of them you're already planning to look into, the 101 non-emergency phone number performance, and the Commissioner says that he made a decision on that within 3 days of coming into office. So what I think you or the panel should do is ask him, what decision did you make, and also look into how the call answering performance changed, if it did at all, after that decision was made. And what you need to look into there, is what the panel's asked for information on before, is once that 30-second target has been missed, how badly has it been missed? So you need the distribution of call waiting times in full, both the initial ones and those for any second wait when people are asked to hold for somebody else. You could also look, this committee has already asked the panel to look into the staffing levels of the Commissioner's office. And the Commissioner also made an awful lot of decisions when he was setting up his organisation. For example, he's decided to hold his key decision-making body, his Business Coordination Board, in secret. And the papers for that are not published in advance, they only come out afterwards. Also, I'd like you or the panel to look into the information that he's proactively publishing, information on spending. How does he decide what goes into his published spending data? What about the police performance data that we used to get on a regular basis via the police authority that neither the police or the Commissioner are now publishing? What about the Force Executive Board papers, where, again, some of those used to come out through the police authority, so we used to find out in advance when major policy changes in the police were being considered. Something else you could look into is the accuracy of some of the Commissioner's key claims. The Commissioner's claim to put no extra burden on council tax. I think that should be quite an easy one for you to look into and see if that's reasonable. What about 10% reduction in cost of his office? Is that a fair thing for him to be saying? You could look into some of his projects, his eSIM's data sharing website, for example. The Commissioner repeatedly says that there are no personal details on that beyond whether or not an individual has come into contact with an organisation. Yet the Community Safety Partnership in Cambridge has been told something quite different, that a lot of personal information is being shared between organisations on that website. You could also look into his alert system. Is it as comprehensive as the Commissioner is claiming? Did the Home Office actually produce it and design it? What sort of process did he go through with sort of giving that tender to the company he awarded? So those are the kind of things I'd like to be looking at, and I look forward, I hope you will bring in before you, I think it's in December you're planning, I look forward to you holding to account in December.
Thank you, Richard. You did have more than your 3 minutes, but you're very well. There were a number of questions in there, and I think if we can, if any of you, first of all, do any members of the committee wish to ask any questions of Mr. Taylor?
Can I just briefly ask, the information that you're requesting, not a problem, is any of that on his website?
Right, so he has a decisions page on his website,
right,
but he obviously controls that.
Decides what goes to scrutiny.
My comment is that it's not as comprehensive as I would like, and I've given you the example of the 101 decision, or this sort of the initial
So
set
we're
of
talking
decisions.
about headlines again?
We're talking about selecting the items, so he's got a decisions list, but is it comprehensive? I don't think it is. He's got some spending data. Again, he makes decisions on what goes on to that spending data. So, for example, his own expenses. Now, I think he might be doing something along the lines of accruing expenses but not claiming them, so therefore they don't appear on the spending data. His staffing expenses don't appear on the spending data. And what about the money that he's spending, that he hands over to the police? That doesn't appear there either. So he's certainly, all the police and crime commissioners around the country have made different decisions on what appears on their public spending data. Now, perhaps nationally we should have some consistency, but equally, in December, when the Commissioner's in front of you, you could ask the Commissioner what's he deciding to publish, what is he not publishing.
There must be accounts, mustn't there? End of year accounts, so to speak.
Well, I must say, sir, I'm actually on the police and crime panel. You know, we've only had one meeting since I joined the council, and I will be looking into certain things, but that is outside of this committee now. Councillor,
You mentioned the national, sort of, there has to be a national sort of benchmark or whatever. How does he compare with other crime commissioners in the country? I mean,
Well,
ways
so in
of
terms of
going about
making his key decision-making body, this business coordination board, elsewhere in the country, and that kind of thing is being done at public meetings, whereas his is not. So in terms of things like the spending data, the problem is that no one's holding police and crime commissioners to account. No one's forcing them to sort of be as open as law encourages them to be. And it comes down to members of the public to hold the police and crime commissioner to account. Essentially, I'm here to say, help me hold my police and crime commissioner to account and get him to be as open and transparent as possible.
you can, of course, attend police and crime panel.
And I have done it a number of times.
No, sorry. Councillor Topping was next.
I was going to ask, and I'm sure we can get this information and advice from our own officers, but in terms of the sort of priorities of this committee, because there will be other bodies looking at the performance of the police and crime commissioner, including the one that our chair has just referenced. I mean, what's your view on what is our remit to hold?
I've suggested two things here. One is that you get the chairman of the police and crime panel in and encourage him to do a little bit more. But you've already been working for a couple of years on non-emergency call handling. So I'm saying, well, that's already on your future work programme. I think you should carry on with that. I've sort of been specific about what I think you should ask the Commissioner and the Chief Constable to bring with them next time in terms of information on sort of what's changed. And I think it seems like it's improved, but we need to see the data and look at it.
Right.
Thank you. Councillor Curtis.
Thank you, Chair. Well, my understanding is that it's part of the duty of this committee to look at his actions, and it's a statutory part of our duty that, or has been agreed. There are statutory parts of the council's duty which are allotted to different committees, and that has been divested
So
to this committee.
within the terms of reference ways of working report, you'll see on page 2, it refers to the council's role as the crime and disorder committee.
Yeah.
So every local authority has a scrutiny committee which has crime and disorder related powers, if you like, or issues that it's trying to look at. So this committee is the right one to look at crime and disorder issues. Police and crime commissioner is obviously an element within the crime and disorder area.
Do you have any more questions?
Yeah,
Councillor Henson.
the question on the money being spent by the Crime Commission or trying to be saved, whichever way, it's not been going a year yet, has it? Has it been going a year?
A year in November.
Sorry?
A year this November.
All right, so we've got no figures whatsoever at the moment. I think we ought to be looking at having a scrutiny on that particular subject on its own.
Okay, we bring that will come up when we look at what we're going to have.
Well, the thing is,
Does anybody have any more questions for Mr Taylor at the moment? No, sir.
Yeah, you're obviously concerned with this particular subject. Have you put any freedom of information requests in?
Yes, I've tried making freedom of information requests for every month's Force Executive Board papers, and those have been refused by the police in a very dodgy way, in my view. They refused them as vexatious on the grounds that they say that if the work that they would have to do in order to prepare those for publication would disrupt them from their core business of running the police force. Now, previously, through the police authority, the key papers did get published, and the force have told me that they've been very surprised that the Commissioner isn't publishing a good chunk of what they give him, because he stood for election on a manifesto including openness and transparency. So they were quite surprised that he didn't start publishing a lot of the material that they provide him with.
So can I just have a follow-up? How many FOIs have you put in?
Every month since November until recently, I've been requesting the Force Executive Board meeting and then papers, for example. But some of the other information, the problem is that really with the spending information, it's got to be proactively published. Really, there's and with the call answering statistics. You can't force the police to produce statistics through FOI. I can't force them to produce the kind of graph or distribution data that we want on, that this committee's asked for repeatedly, on how long the calls take to answer if that 30-second target is missed. And so I've got to use this kind of, I've got to come to council or come to the police and crime panel and say, can you sort of encourage, or I think all you can do is encourage, keep requesting this information from the police and from the commissioner.
Okay, if I summarise, don't just stay there for a minute. I think what you're actually asking us as a committee to do is to ask the police and crime panel to ask the police and crime commissioner for that information that used to be published but is no longer being published. Is that correct? So to summarise it, so if we put down at the moment, hopefully, your request to us, because you're at it, is to request that the information, the public information that used to be published by the police authority prior to the appointment of the Police and Crime Commissioner is no longer being published, and you want to know why, and if there's no reason why it shouldn't be published, you'd like to see it published again.
Absolutely, yeah.
And as Mr Taylor mentioned earlier, the proposal being put forward to you as part of the work programme is that we ask the Police and Crime Commission and the Chief Constable to attend your meetings. So to alert.
So if the committee are in favour, do they think it's right that we have asked the Police and Crime Commissioner and the Chief Constable to address us at this committee? Do we feel that it is correct that we should ask the Police and Crime Commissioner why he no longer publishes that information that the previous police authority used to publish? And why does he not publish it? Because we have a member of the public here who wants to see the information.
So do we.
Yes, I'm happy with that, obviously. But basically, in Appendix C, we are actually asking for either him or the Chief Constable or their delegates. Should we take away that all their delegates?
Yes.
Yeah, we want them as
You can't compel them to.
Well, no,
No,
if
we
we put
can
delegates, then that's sort of, you know.
Okay.
But that is separate. So what the action which Mr Taylor has asked us to do is to ask that question to the Police and Crime Commission. Is that correct, Mr Taylor?
Yeah.
Yeah. And the committee, and I think it's a fairly reasonable question, is content that we do ask the Police and Crime Commission. That is outside of him coming to see us. We can ask him other questions when he does it. So
I'll put that question to him.
we will put that question forward for you. Thank you very much. You're quite welcome to stay because we are now going to talk about... Oh, sorry, Councillor Topping.
I was just going to say, can we ask the officers to give us the best advice they can in terms of what is the remit of the police committee, the one that you're on,
Police and Crime Commission.
and this committee. Because what we don't want to do is to have a situation where we're asking questions and people say, well, actually, that isn't in your remit. So I think it would be helpful if before we have those discussions, those challenges to the police and crime commission, we have an understanding of what's our remit and what's the panel remit.
I think the probably answer to that is our remit is to look at the law rather than scrutinise it. The remit of the Police and Crime Panel is to scrutinise what the Police and Crime Commission is, but we have no power to compel him or overrule him to do anything.
Yeah, I'm fine with that. I'm just saying we don't want to get in a situation where we've prepared perhaps a line of questioning and then someone turns around to us quite legitimately and says, that's actually not what it's about.
Keep the section. I'm happy that it is within our remit, but we will check anyway. Okay.
And on that subject, you just said, if he's working for the public, surely he's got to answer the questions. You can't be there answering questions if we're paying.
Professor, this is an appointment that was made by central government, and they have given the Police and Crime Commission more or less total autonomy. Yeah. We can ask questions, we have a responsibility, but we can't compel them to do anything.
Well, Chair, let's not forget that elected by the public, appointed, the office is appointed or created by central government, but it's a democratically elected position and a political position as well, really.
I think this committee agrees on that. Whether our opinions are Police and Crime Commissions are good or bad, I will keep that as a testimony. Okay, we can move on.